The regular meeting of the Business Inspections and Zoning Committee will now begin.
Greetings to my colleagues and staff, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Business Inspections and Zoning Committee for today, which is August 4th. I'm Lisa Goodman. I'll be chairing the committee today. As we begin, I'll note for the record that this meeting has remote participation from members of the City Council and City staff as authorized under Minnesota Statute Section 13D.021 due to the local public health emergency. At this time, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll so we can verify a quorum for this meeting.
Councilmember Wright?
Aye, we're here.
Gordon?
Here.
Fletcher?
Here.
Ellison?
Present.
Schrader?
Here.
Chair Goodman?
Present.
There's 6 members present.
A quorum is here for the meeting today. We'll first dispense with the consent agenda, which is items 6 through 15 on the agenda. Item 6 are the liquor license approvals and 7 are the renewals. Item 8 is the gambling license approvals. Item 9 is the reinstatement of rental dwelling licenses for the properties at 3105, 3112, 3116, 3122 and 3141 22nd Avenue to be held by the new owner LB Corcoran 5. For the very last time, we will refer to these properties as the Corcoran 5. Item number 10 is an agreement with the Hennepin County Housing and Redevelopment Authority and the Park Board for a park dedication and cooperative easement agreement with Lake and Hiawatha for a project at 2225 East Lake Street. Items 11 through 13 are rezoning applications submitted for properties located at 35 Groveland Terrace, 4220, 4230 Nicollet Avenue, and 5504, 5516, and 5536 Lindale Avenue South, as listed on the agenda. Item 14 is an alley vacation application submitted for 461, 3601 East 42nd Street. And item 15 is a utility easement at 336 2nd Street Northeast. Are there any comments or any items on the consent agenda that any members of the committee would like to pull off for discussion? Seeing none, I will move the consent agenda and ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Councilmember Wright?
Aye.
Gordon?
Aye.
Fletcher?
Aye.
Ellison?
Aye.
Schrader?
Aye.
Councilmember Goodman?
Aye.
Chair Goodman? There are 6 ayes.
Those items are approved. With that, we'll move on to the public hearing agenda, starting with item number 1. Item 1 is a consideration of an application for Sidebar at Surdyk at 303 East Hennepin to receive an on-sale liquor with limited entertainment license. I'd invite staff to give a report.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and committee members. I'm Enrique Velazquez, the Manager of Licenses and Consumer Services, presenting an application from Sidebar at Surdyk, owned by Surdyk Flight, Inc., located at 303 East Hennepin Avenue, Suite Number 2 in Ward 3. This report was prepared by Inspector Christina Steester. The location is currently unlicensed, although it is connected to Surdyk Liquors. The application requests an on-sale liquor limited entertainment with Sunday sales license. The proposed hours of operation will be Monday through Thursday from 11 a.m. to midnight, Friday and Saturday from 11 a.m. to 2 a.m., and then Sunday from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. They have indoor seating for 61. On July 13th, public hearing notices were sent to residents and property owners within 600 feet of these premises, to the Nicollet Island East Bank Neighborhood Association, the Northeast Chamber of Commerce, and Councilmember Fletcher. In response to the public hearing notice, we've received 3 responses from the community, all in support of this application. Inside the 2,881 square foot space will be a full sit-down restaurant that will serve lunch and dinner with space inside where they also plan to sell sandwiches, cheese, and other food items to go. A review of 311 calls and police calls found no significant issues concerning this business in the last several years pertaining to the adjacent Surdyk Liquors. The Licenses and Consumer Services Division recommends approval for a non-sale liquor limited entertainment with Sunday sales license for Sidebar at Surdyk. This concludes my report, and at this time I'll stand for any comments or questions.
Are there any questions for Mr. Velazquez on item number 1? Seeing none, I'll proceed to open the public hearing and ask if there are any speakers in the queue on this item. I see Taylor Surdyk is on the phone, so I will invite Taylor to speak now. There's a trick to it.
Hi, Madam Chair. Could you hear me?
We can, sir.
Okay. Hi. Thanks for taking the time today to review this. My great-grandfather was the 11th liquor license in Minneapolis, and I'm not sure what number this liquor license is, but I'm hoping to continue the tradition of our family has done in this neighborhood, and I'm excited to bring a new concept and invest in Northeast Minneapolis.
Is there anything else you'd like to add, Taylor?
That's all I have for today.
Great. Thank you for being here today, and thank you for your testimony. Are there any additional speakers, Madam Clerk?
No additional speakers for item 1.
Okay, there are no additional speakers, so I'm going to close the public hearing, and I'd ask Councilmember Fletcher if he would be willing to move this item.
I absolutely would, Chair Goodman. I'm really excited to see this come through. I appreciate that this business is continuing to innovate and think about how they can continue to adapt their business model to better serve a changing neighborhood. And I'm excited to see this come through. I know we've been talking about it for a while, so congratulations on getting it to this point. And I am happy to move approval.
Approval has been moved of item number 1. Are there further comments or questions? Seeing none, the clerk will call the roll.
Councilmember Reich,
Aye.
Gordon,
Aye.
Fletcher,
Aye.
Ellison,
Aye.
Schrader,
Aye.
Chair Goodman.
Aye.
There are 6 ayes.
There are 6 ayes, which means that carries and the motion is approved. We'll move on to item number 2, which is consideration of an application for Bad Waitress to receive an on-sale liquor and limited entertainment license. I'd invite staff to give their report.
Thank you, Chair Goodman and committee members. Enrique Velazquez once again presenting an application from Apollo and Dionysus LLC, doing business as Bad Waitress, located at 2 East 26th Street in Ward 10. This report was prepared by Inspector Mohammed Ismail. Bad Waitress is licensed for on-sale wine plus strong beer with limited entertainment and has been in operation at this location since 2014. The applicant requests to upgrade to on-sale liquor with limited entertainment license. There will be no change to the level of entertainment or hours of operation, which are Monday to Saturday, 7 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Sunday from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. The business has indoor seating for 65 and outdoor seating for 28. On July 13th, notices of this public hearing were sent to residents and property owners within 600 feet of the premises, to the Whittier Alliance, and Council President Bender. We have received no responses from the community on this matter. A review of 311 calls and police calls found no significant issues concerning this business. The Licenses and Consumer Services Division recommends approval for a non-sale liquor license with limited entertainment. This concludes my report, and at this time I will stand for any comments or questions.
Are there any questions for Mr. Velazquez on item number 2? Seeing none, I'm going to open the public hearing and ask if there are any speakers in queue on this item. I'm pretty positive the incredible Andy Cohen is on the line, so I would invite him to speak.
Hi, it's Andy, Madam Chair and committee. Thanks for considering this item. My wife Mary and I bought the Bad Waitress in 2014, and we've enjoyed, serving the neighborhood since then. And we're just changing things up a little bit, taking advantage of the unfortunate downtime we've had to refresh the location, including venue, and we are looking to add to the beverage program with some cocktails and boozy shakes and things that people seem to appreciate these days. So that is our objective, and we look forward to continuing to be a part of the neighborhood and appreciate your consideration. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Andy, for all the incredible work you're doing over there. Wonderful establishment. Is there anyone else?
I appreciate it.
Is there anyone else on the line to speak to this? I'll ask the clerk.
There are no further speakers on item 2.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I will then close the public hearing and see if there are any further comments or questions from anyone on the committee. If not, I'll call on Councilmember Fletcher.
Thank you, Chair Goodman. I'm happy to move approval on this item as well.
Approval has been moved of item number 2. Further comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll on item number 2.
Councilmember Wright,
Aye.
Gordon,
Aye.
Fletcher,
Aye.
Ellison, Councilmember Ellison, Councilmember Schrader.
Aye.
I believe Councilmember Ellison weighed in.
Yeah, aye.
Okay, thank you. And Chair Goodman.
Aye.
There are 6 ayes.
There are 6 ayes. That item is approved. We'll move on to item number 3, which is an application from Heather's at 5210 Chicago Avenue to receive an on-sale wine with strong beer license. I'd invite our staff to give a report.
Thank you, Madam Chair and committee members. Enrique Velasquez, once again presenting an application from 5201 Chicago LLC, doing business as Heather's, located at 5201 Chicago Avenue in Ward 11. This report was prepared by Inspector Phil Schlesman. Heather's is currently licensed for on-sale wine with strong beer and no live entertainment. This applicant is requesting a permanent expansion of premises to allow sitting in an outdoor area located on private property directly adjacent to the building housing the restaurant. Heather's has been in operation at this location since 2019. There's no change in the entertainment they're offering, which includes radio, TV, jukebox, and electronically produced music, and no change in the hours of operation, which are Monday through Thursday, 7 a.m. to 10 p.m., Friday from 7 a.m. to midnight, Saturday, 9 a.m. to midnight, and Sunday from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. The business has indoor seating for 48 and will be able to provide seating for an additional 48 with the approval of the new outdoor private patio space. On July 13th, 169 public hearing notices were sent to residents and property owners within 600 feet of the premises, to the Hale, Page, Diamond Lake neighborhood associations, the Diamond Lake Community Business Association, and to Councilmember Schrader. In response to the public hearing, we've received 17 comments from the community, all in support of this application for expansion of premises. A review of 311 calls and police calls found no significant issues concerning this business. Licenses and Consumer Services Division recommends approval of a permanent expansion of premises for Heather's. This concludes my report. At this time, I'll stand for any comments or questions. Thank you.
Are there any questions for Mr. Velasquez on item number 3? Seeing none, we'll open the public hearing on item number 3 and ask the clerk if there's anyone on the phone who would like to speak to this issue.
I believe there's one person in the queue.
Okay, we'll invite Andy Asbury, if you're on the phone, to feel free to make a comment.
Hi, yes, I'm on the phone, and as you can see, that's the visual of the patio that we are going for here with the license, and just want to thank everybody that was involved with the city and helping us get to this point, and also for everybody that submitted comments, and we are thrilled to hear the positive feedback. So
thank you so much.
Any questions? Yeah.
Thank you so much for everything you're doing. The timing of your business was a little bit inopportune, but you're really making a go of it by doing this outdoor cafe. I really commend you for that. Thank you for calling in today.
Well, thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
Given that there are no additional speakers, I'll close the public hearing and call on Councilmember Schrader.
Thank you, Chair Goodman. I am really excited to move this forward. I think your statement about having them open this in the time of COVID, you would think would be, I'm sure made it much, much harder, but Andy and Heather have just been phenomenal. It has been wonderful to have them in the community. And just as way of background for my colleagues, this was a property that stood vacant for decades at this point. And to look at what it is now and what their vision is for the future is nothing short of amazing. So I'm really excited about Andy and Heather's continued work. I'm really excited to move this forward and wish them nothing but success for the future. So with that, I'll move this forward.
On Councilmember Schrader's motion for approval, is there anyone else who would like to comment? Seeing none, I'd ask the clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Reich,
Aye.
Gordon,
Aye.
Fletcher,
Aye.
Ellison,
Aye.
Schrader,
Aye.
Chair Goodman.
Aye.
There are 6 ayes.
That item is approved. We'll move on to public hearing item number 4, which is the 2021 license fee schedule update, and I'd invite Mr. Intermill to make a short presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. As you know, each year the city is required to hold a public hearing on setting fee amounts charged to various services, licenses, and permits. The license fee schedule includes fees charged to customers for all business licenses, retail licenses, pollution control annual registration, and animal control services. Fees have increased in each of the past 2 years, so in 2018 for 2019 and in 2019 for 2020, to help reduce the property tax burden associated with providing these regulatory activities. Because of the current economic recession and general depressed local economic conditions caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, staff recommends holding all fees constant in 2021. Staff plan to perform a comprehensive analysis of all fees found on the schedule in 2021 and will likely recommend an update for 2022 and inflationary increases in future years in order to mitigate any property tax subsidy of this regulatory activity. Notices were sent to license holders, and we received 2 emails and 1 voicemail, all in support of a no increase position.
Thank you for that report. I'll see if there are any members of the council or committee who would like to ask any questions. I note that there are no registered speakers, but we will open the public hearing on this item and see if anyone has chimed in to make a comment. Seeing that no one has chimed in, I will close the public hearing, and I'll move approval given that there's no increase, and see if anyone else would like to speak to this issue. Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll on item number 4.
Councilmember Reich,
Aye.
Gordon,
Aye.
Fletcher,
Aye.
Ellison,
Aye.
Schrader,
Aye.
Chair Goodman.
Aye.
There are 6 ayes.
That item is approved. We'll move on to our last public hearing, which is item number 5, with regard to a business subsidy agreement with Northgate Development at 1200 Plymouth Avenue North. I'd ask the staff to give a report, please. There must be someone on who's going to do the report, correct?
Chair Goodman, this is Eric Hansen. With,
Mr. Hansen,
yes,
welcome.
I can jump in. What you see before you is a report that is obligation of the Minnesota State Business Subsidy Act for the deployment of a grant we received from the Met Council for this project. It just allows us to set the business subsidy as not job creating, but alternative mechanism. So this public hearing is just a formality to get to that point. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Are there any questions for Mr. Hansen on item number 5? I see that there's a number of people who are lined up to speak to item number 5, and so I will give you each 2 minutes, starting with Laura Scholl, and then Nate Broadbridge, Jamez Staples, Eric Posse, and Erica Santos, in that order. And I'd ask if you could keep your comments to 2 minutes, that would be great. And I'll invite Laura to speak first. Perhaps the clerk could remind the folks on the phone how they would unmute themselves.
Speakers, please press *6 to unmute.
So the speakers would press *6 to unmute. We'll start with Laura and move to Nate, Jamez, Eric, and Erica in that order. And I'd invite Laura Scholl to speak.
Thank you. This is Laura Scholl. I work for Metro Blooms. We are a nonprofit in Minneapolis that works with communities to install and care for green infrastructure. And we've been working with renewable energy partners on their stormwater management grants for 1200 Plymouth, and we're assisting with the landscape design of their site. We'll be working with youth and young adults from North Minneapolis to install the planned rain gardens and native plantings there this fall as a kickoff to a green infrastructure training partnership that we hope to implement in partnership with the training center. We were just recently awarded a Green Partners grant from Hennepin County to develop and implement this training with the renewable energy partners and with the Mississippi Watershed Management Organization. And I'll just say through our work, we experienced the ongoing need for a trained workforce to install and maybe more importantly, care for clean water and native habitat projects, which are only becoming more common. And we're very excited about the potential partnership with the training center to meet this need. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Laura, for being here today. Well, I'll ask if Nate Broadbridge is on the line.
I am. Can you hear me?
We can, Nate. Thank you. You have 2 minutes, sir.
Hi, my name is Nate Broadbridge, and I work with Sundial Energy, a local solar developer here in the Twin Cities. We've been in business for 20 years and see an increased need as we move as a state and as a region towards a more sustainable future, to have a bigger and better workforce when it comes to renewable energy, particularly in the solar industry. We've been working with Northgate Development for a few years now and are thoroughly impressed with the plans that Jamez and team have to develop a cohesive workforce strategy for the solar energy sector in the metro area as well as the state of Minnesota. So we would like to express our sincere support in seeing this training center and the Northgate Development dream come to fruition. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony, Nate. I'll call on Jamez Staples next, please. I know Mr. Staples is here. I cannot imagine he would not be. *6 is how you unmute, Mr. Staples. Why don't we...
Can you hear me now?
We can, sir. Go ahead. You have 2 minutes.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and the Council. Thank you so much for this opportunity to bring this project before you all. As you all know, this project has been a brainchild for years, and we are hoping to help the city of Minneapolis to meet its sustainability goals in addition to its 100% renewable energy goals by making sure that the workforce is developed with an equitable lens. This training center will provide a unique opportunity to make sure that people from the North Minneapolis area as well as surrounding areas have access to participate in the training so they can be sufficient and efficient workers in the energy space. So I thank you all again and look forward to your approval for this business subsidy.
Thank you for being here today, Mr. Staples, and for all of your work on this. We'll now move on to Eric Posse. Press *6, Eric, if you can. Eric, are you there? We'll go ahead and move on to Erica Schlager dos Santos. Are you there? Press *6 to unmute, please. Okay, I see that they're not confirmed and I don't hear them on the phone. So I'll call for any additional speakers who would like to speak to this issue. Anyone else on the line would like to speak to this issue?
Chair Goodman?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't see any further speakers for this item.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We'll then go ahead and close the public hearing, and I'll call on Councilmember Ellison.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm excited to move approval of this item, and I want to thank all the folks for coming together.
On Councilmember Ellison's motion to approve, are there any final comments or questions? Seeing none, I'd ask the clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Wright?
Aye.
Gordon?
Aye.
Fletcher?
Aye.
Ellison?
Aye.
Schrader?
Aye.
Chair Goodman?
Aye.
There are 6 ayes.
There are 6 ayes, meaning that item is unanimously approved. We'll then move to our two discussion items. Item number 16 is authorizing an $800,000 commercial property development loan for the redevelopment project at 927-931 West Broadway and 1832 DuPont Avenue South. I know that we have staff here to give this report. I'll note that we put this on discussion because there's a lot of enthusiasm about getting to this point with this property, and the Councilmember Schrader and I felt that everyone should know what's going on with it because it's really incredible that we're at this point. So I will ask staff to give their presentation.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, my name is Jim Terrell. I'm a program supervisor in the business development division of CPED, and I'm very excited to be here to present this request, as the chair mentioned, for an $800,000 commercial property development fund loan for the project at 927 West Broadway. This project has been developed for the past several years by the 927 Building LLC. And that developer is comprised of 3 partners: New Rules, Tri-Construction, and the Phillips Family Foundation. As may have been mentioned, this will be the first use, if approved, by the committee and the full council, of the city's new Commercial Property Development Fund development tool. The project is exciting in what it does for a long vacant or underutilized building, but it provides 3 specific things that we've called out in the report to the committee: an opportunity for existing local, based on West Broadway, African-American business owners to have an ownership in this historically significant building, to reactivate the building that has been only partially used but very largely derelict for a number of years, and to provide a new location for these businesses that are already on West Broadway, and to serve as the new headquarters for the Phillips Family Foundation as it continues in its new role of serving exclusively and focusing its giving exclusively in North Minneapolis. In terms of an overview of the size and scale, this is approximately a $6.9 million project with slightly over $5.5 million of that in construction. The LLC intends to renovate the approximately 10,000 square foot 3-story existing building, and to add to that 3 stories to the south, another 10,000 square feet to that building, as well as surface parking to the rear of that. The city had an RFP process in early 2018 and requested proposals. This LLC won through that competitive process and has been working since then to bring the project to fruition. One of the things that I specifically wanted to highlight that's exciting about this project is its federal historic designation that is very close to being approved and pending. The report highlights, and I won't go into a lot of detail, some fascinating information about how the building used to be used, in the fact that former mayor of the city of Minneapolis, George Leach, actually used the building to actively give campaign speeches and to lobby against the Ku Klux Klan, and to make it clear that Klan members would not be allowed to be Minneapolis police officers during his tenure as mayor. This use of the building was largely responsible for this developer enabling it to get the approval so far of the federal historic designation whereas efforts in the past had not been able to do that. Assuming that this designation goes through and it's very close to being approved, and the development team can speak further to it, this would be the first federally historic designated building on West Broadway in the city of Minneapolis. The budget is also exciting in that it is a difficult project, having pieced together new market tax credits, as we mentioned, historic tax credits, investment from the Phillips Family Foundation, an LCDA grant, and of course the first use of the city's Commercial Property Development Fund. The details of that funding are presented in the RCA, so I won't go on in detail of those. The project funding request was reviewed at the July 21st meeting of the Development Finance Committee, and they recommended approval of the staff's recommendation. And so I encourage and wholeheartedly request your approval. As I indicated, representatives from the development team are here, and they are prepared to speak, and I'll certainly stand for questions if there are any.
Thank you, Mr. Terrell. It's obvious that if this is a project that's on your desk, it's probably one of the most difficult ones the city has ever seen. And so I just want to thank you. We are so lucky to have you working with the city. You have stood by the city and its residents through thick and thin on very difficult projects on the north side, and you just never give up. And I'm just really proud to know you. And I know all of the members of the committee feel that way. Because we have a little time, unless there's objection, I'd like to ask Patrick Troska and Christopher Webley both to say a few words. I mean, this is just such a big deal, and I feel like we don't get a lot of good news all of the time, and this is an incredible challenge met by an incredible group of people. So I would invite either Mr. Troska or Mr. Webley, if they'd like to say a few words, you would unmute your mic by punching *6. Unless there's an objection from the committee, and I don't see one. So if either of you would like to speak, that would be invited.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can you guys hear me okay?
We can, sir.
All right. Again, thank you guys so much for this opportunity. Jim, thank you guys for all your hard work and helping push this project across the finish line. Like you both alluded to, this has been a very uphill battle, to say the very least, from conception through breaking ground. But you know, they say anything that comes easy isn't worth having, and I feel really proud and confident about the project and the product that we are delivering on West Broadway. You know, from getting it designated on the historic tax registry, and as well as to how we plan to activate this space in the future. We're really excited about the programming activation that will happen on the first floor, with the first floor public plaza on the back side, and some of the community activation that will happen under the New Rules umbrella.
I'll get back to you as soon as this is done.
So we're really excited about what's to come, and again, we thank you guys for this opportunity.
Madam Chair, can the speaker please identify themselves?
Oh, sorry, that was Chris Webley with New Rules, part of the 927 LLC development.
Thank you, Chris, for being here today. And we'll ask if Mr. Troska would also like to say something. Patrick, would you like to say a few words or no? Press *6 to unmute. Okay, perhaps not. I'm sorry if you're trying and can't get through. Thank you for everything the Phillips Foundation is doing. This is not a public hearing, so I don't need to close the public hearing, but I would like to call on my colleague, Councilmember Ellison, to say a few words.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is an amazing step in this project. Again, you know, there's never any too much room to celebrate until we have cut the ribbon and the thing is done and built. But this is an amazing next step. I'm excited to continue supporting the developers here, who have been a tremendous team. Jim, who has been an incredible staff person to be leading this effort on the city side. I want to thank all of you, and let's keep working hard to make sure that we, secure everything that we need in order to get this project up and running. And yeah, I just can't say enough positive things about the developer and city staff on this when it comes to this project. So yes, do we need to move approval, or were we just sort of listening to the presentation?
Please feel free to move approval, sir.
Okay, I'm happy to move approval. So
approval has been moved of this item, and I'll see if there's anyone else on the committee who would like to make some comments. Seeing none, I'd ask the clerk to call the roll on item number 16.
Councilmember Reich?
Aye.
Gordon?
Aye.
Fletcher?
Aye.
Ellison?
Aye.
Schrader?
Aye.
Chair Goodman?
Aye.
There's 6 ayes.
There are 6 ayes. That item is unanimously approved. And again, a very, very big thanks to everyone involved. Most importantly, Jim Terrell, who's been so intimately involved in this. Thank you for your work. We'll move on to our remaining item, which is item number 17. It relates to event requirements for off-duty police officers. I'd ask if staff would give that report.
Thank you, Chair Goodman and committee members. Enrique Velazquez from Licenses and Consumer Services reporting again. And in this instance, I'm providing a follow-up report on the staff direction regarding off-duty Minneapolis police officers. If we can shift to the next slide. So on June 5th, the Policy and Governance Oversight Committee directed Licenses and Consumer Services to essentially evaluate 2 different components. Number 1, implementing a change to the block event and special event process to allow block event or special event organizers, if they choose, to use private security services rather than requiring off-duty Minneapolis police officers for that, the security of that event. The second component was to work with the mayor's off-duty work group, off-duty Minneapolis Police Work Group, and provide a report to the Business Inspections and Zoning Committee no later than today with the number of licensed businesses that have specific licensing conditions requiring them to utilize off-duty police. So today's presentation will focus on both of those 2 components, beginning with special events on the very next slide, and then continuing with business requirements following that. So if we can move to slide 3. So in this slide, so prior to the staff direction, event planners and organizers were required to hire off-duty Minneapolis police officers for events on the public property or in the public right-of-way. Event planners and organizers were also required to hire off-duty Minneapolis police officers for events that were held on public property when alcohol would be present or served to participants. With the new direction, off-duty Minneapolis police officers will not be required for either of these situations. To align with the messaging, staff updated the special events page, application materials, and associated documentation to deliver a consistent message. The communication was delivered to event planners and caterers who had previously submitted applications to host events, and messaging is underway to notify the general public of these changes. One caveat is that by ordinance, Minneapolis police officers and traffic control agents are the only personnel authorized to manage traffic in the public right-of-way. So for events that require some level of traffic management, whether it's a partial obstruction of a lane, temporary obstruction or redirection of traffic flow to accommodate a walk, a run, a parade, or anything of that nature, city personnel will be required in those specific instances. So off-duty Minneapolis police take on security work in support of businesses that voluntarily seek out these services. Alternatively, in finding that good cause exists, City Council may impose reasonable conditions or restrictions on a license pertaining to how business activity is conducted to preserve the public peace and protect and promote good order, livability, and security. Reasonable conditions may also be applied to ensure that the business conducts itself and its on-premise activities in a way that aligns with the culture of the district it operates in, as neighbors and communities do change. One of these conditions may be a requirement to hire off-duty Minneapolis police officers for security purposes. As part of this staff direction, Licenses and Consumer Services was asked to identify how many businesses were required, either as an operating condition or even as part of the business plan, to hire off-duty Minneapolis police for security. And we'll go into those details on the very next slide. So since 2002, we've been documenting operating conditions. At present, we have 294 sets of conditions on active businesses. Of these, only 4 individual businesses, all of which are bars, have an operating condition that requires them to hire off-duty Minneapolis police officers. That represents just 1.3% of businesses with operating conditions. And we're working with each one of these individual business owners to amend their operating conditions to reflect the requirement of retaining uniformed security personnel, so that businesses have that flexibility to hire off-duty Minneapolis police, hire direct staff to fill that security need, or even to retain the services of a third-party security company. As we work with each one of these businesses, staff will prepare and present the amended operating conditions to Biz Committee for approval. In further support of this effort, language has been updated in our standard list of conditions to reflect a shift towards requiring uniform security rather than explicitly requiring off-duty Minneapolis police officers. This change will help institutionalize those changes in that ongoing direction. In addition to these 4 businesses, through our research, we identified 3 businesses that have committed to hiring off-duty Minneapolis police officers as part of their business plan or security plan. We've reached out to each one of these 3 businesses to open the dialogue with each one of them, inviting them in for a business plan review with staff and to afford them that same level of flexibility as we are with those that have it stated within their operating condition to hire off-duty Minneapolis police. And similarly to those with operating conditions, we plan on submitting the recommended business plan amendments to Biz Committee for approval as each plan is reviewed and recommended for approval. In total, very few of our licensed businesses, less than 1%, are required to hire off-duty Minneapolis police officers for security purposes. As part of the second point of the staff direction, staff met with the mayor's off-duty work group and shared these findings. What these data do not tell us is how many businesses voluntarily hire off-duty Minneapolis police officers, either as their primary security staff or as a supplement to their existing security staff. While not explicitly called out, collectively the group felt that there was a sense that some businesses may feel they are required to hire off-duty Minneapolis police officers while they're undergoing a security plan review with Minneapolis Police. Others felt that if they did go through with hiring police officers, that they might receive some level of preferential treatment. Another item that was noted as part of this discussion with the off-duty work group is that inside certain establishments, they felt that if there are certain bad actors and those bad actors are removed from the indoor space to the outdoor space where there is an off-duty Minneapolis police presence, that just perpetuates a problem rather than focusing on what we need to do collectively as a city to make sure that we have good operators and that those operators do come into compliance. So there is a concerted effort around where we allow Minneapolis Police to serve in these off-duty security positions, just so that we do not further that behavior and enable that behavior, so that we can be very intentional about working with those operators and establishing proper protocols. Which brings us to an additional point in general on security. Under paragraph 4 of MCO 259.250, it shall be the responsibility of the licensee to provide adequate security to prevent criminal activity, loitering, lurking, and disorderly conduct on the business premises, including the parking areas. Businesses must provide that adequate security. What is lacking in this is that we don't necessarily tell those businesses what adequate security looks like. So as we shift to that next slide, oh, we have it there, perfect. There is some work that's happening with the nighttime implementation policy work group, which is part of Downtown Improvement District, working with industry partners so that we can help identify what exactly does adequate security look like? What are the best practices, and how can we provide those supports to those businesses within the business community that may not have a focus on security? They are focused on their operations, or they're focused on a certain niche, but they don't have the full package of tools at their disposal to understand what exactly security means, what it should look like, and what the expectations are from the city. So by helping to develop this, we can provide those tools to the businesses. We can set the expectation and educate them on what their requirements are, how to set the expectations with their own staff, set expectations with the third-party security company that they might bring on board, and even with off-duty police officers when they retain those services and when that's an appropriate use, just so that there is that level of understanding all the way across the board as we elevate the security requirement within our city. So this concludes my presentation, and I will stand for any questions or comments.
Are there any questions for Mr. Velasquez? Councilmember Gordon.
Yeah, thank you very much, and I appreciate this report and the information, and I think those next steps sound really helpful and something we could drill into. I had a particular question about uniformed officer. I think you were saying, instead of requiring businesses potentially to use off-duty Minneapolis police officers, instead they'd be required to use uniformed officers. And I'm curious if that means they could just hire anybody and put them in a uniform, or is that referring to some kind of state licensure or qualification requirement that would be met? I'm just curious about that gray area, because you also mentioned contract with a private security company, so that made me think there might be higher standards if you're using a company than if you were just using your traditional bouncer or somebody to help you do security. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Certainly. Chair Goodman, thank you very much for the question, Councilmember Gordon. So there is a state licensing board that focuses more specifically on private security and private investigators, but not so much within this hospitality space. That's part of why we're focused on developing those best practices with partners so that we could figure out exactly what that looks like, as well as working with other agencies and municipalities in similarly sized municipalities to Minneapolis, so that we could really have that comprehensive 360-degree view of what does it really mean to have security. To your point, Councilmember Gordon, is it enough to just hire a body that has a security t-shirt and call it sufficient? Does that meet the standard of adequate security? And in our view, no, that's not enough to provide adequate security, though based off of how ordinance is written, there aren't enough details in there to really dictate what that looks like, what training is required, what ongoing continual training is required, or what those specific individuals are allowed to do versus not allowed to do.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Certainly.
Councilmember Fletcher.
Thank you, Chair Goodman, and thank you for this presentation and for this work. I just want to really kind of acknowledge the important work that's happening in the Nightlife Implementation Committee space, especially that business licensing has really been a part of. And I think it's getting at some of those questions about best practices, right? Because there's a, you know, in many cases, I think looking at this from the outside, there's been an assumption that you know, a level of armed security might be necessary or desirable or represent the best thing. And then, you know, when we actually look at what makes a venue safe and what makes spaces safe, you know, and I've heard Inspector Peterson say many times that, you know, First Avenue kind of has the gold standard in terms of training and preparation and the security environment that they create with their establishment. And with their customers. And I think we're really trying to learn best practices from each other and create more cross-pollination of good practices and figure out what the right thing is. And so it's possible that with the right kind of training and with the right kind of planning about how to manage a space and how to manage the street and maybe how to collaborate, with other venues, that in fact, some people in t-shirts who have some really great training and a really great set of best practices actually are exactly what we want and exactly what we need. And I think as we continue to explore that and to really think about how do we extend some of the best practices we're seeing from other cities, including bystander training and including harassment prevention training and all kinds of other things that aren't necessarily trainings that are given right now either to private security staff or to off-duty officers, depending on who gets hired. I think there's really an opportunity for us to create an entertainment environment for events and for nightlife that might be better than anything we've had before. So I'm excited about that continuing work, and the off-duty task force is digging into a whole range of issues beyond the things we've described here, including wellness and liability issues and all kinds of other stuff as we think about off-duty generally. But I think this question of just what are we requiring, and then how are we doing the assessments of what security is needed? Because I think the other feedback that I've heard from a few inspectors now is that they're not necessarily provided any training when they're asked to look at a security plan and kind of think about the operation of a bar and are there enough exits and how are we thinking about what security goes where, that they're not necessarily given a lot of support in that function right now when we have that with MPD. And so I think the role that business licensing is stepping up and playing and looking at this and thinking a little more flexibly about it, I think there's more work to be done, but I think this is a good step for us to have done this analysis and gotten to where we can see where we are today and then figure out ways to innovate here and borrow some best practices from both the businesses that are working in Minneapolis and things that we're learning from other cities.
Would you like to move approval, Councilmember Fletcher?
I would be delighted to move approval. Thank you.
Okay. Approval has been moved by Councilmember Fletcher. Are there further comments or questions? Seeing none, the clerk will call the roll.
Councilmember Reich?
Aye.
Gordon?
Aye.
Fletcher?
Aye.
Ellison?
Aye.
Schrader?
Aye.
Chair Goodman?
Aye.
There are 6 ayes.
The motion carries and that item is approved. Seeing no further business before us and without objection, I will declare this meeting adjourned. Thank you all for participating.